secrets in his phone. I was never the paranoid type. I never checked my boyfriend's phone, never read his messages, never asked where he was or who he was with. We had been together for almost 3 years, and I trusted him completely. Jake was my best friend, my love, my family. At least, that's what I thought. It all started one evening when he left his phone on the kitchen counter while he went to shower. It was a regular Friday night. I was making dinner, and his phone kept vibrating every few seconds. I ignored it at first, but then the screen lit up with a new message, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. I can't wait for tomorrow. I'm all yours, baby. I was holding a knife at that moment, and I gripped it so tightly that my knuckles turned white. My heart started pounding. Was this a joke? A misunderstanding? Maybe one of his friends messing with him? But deep inside, a dark feeling was already creeping in. I hesitated for a moment, then picked up his phone and unlocked it. There was no password. My hands trembled as I opened the messages. And that's when I saw her name. Lauren Redhart. My name was saved as just Ellie. It felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I clicked on their chat. And what I saw made me want to throw up. Photos. Voice messages. Long conversations about their best moments. She called him her love. He told her he loved her too. That he couldn't wait to see her again. And then I saw how he lied about me. That I was just a roommate living in his apartment until I found my own place. That there was nothing between us. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring. At that moment, the bathroom door opened, and he stepped out, a towel around his waist, rubbing his wet hair. He saw me holding his phone and froze. What are you doing? I slowly lifted my head. Who is Lauren? He blinked, as if he didn't understand the question. What? I held up his phone, showing him the messages. His face went pale, then I saw something shift in his eyes, a quick calculation, a search for an excuse. Ellie, it's not what you think. I laughed. Oh, really? So you didn't tell her you love her? You didn't lie and say I'm just your roommate? He stepped toward me, but I backed away. Let me explain. You already did, in these messages, I said coldly. He exhaled, looking for words. It's just. I didn't want to lose you, but. But what? My hands clenched into fists. But I wasn't enough for you? His silence spoke louder than anything he could have said. How long has this been going on? I asked, even though I was terrified of the answer. He looked away. Almost a year. My legs nearly gave out. Almost a year. All this time, while he looked into my eyes, while we slept together, while he told me he loved me, he was lying. Get out, I finally said. Ellie, let's talk about this. Get out. I screamed so loudly that I startled myself. He stared at me for a few more seconds, then, without another word, walked out of the apartment. I stood there, gripping his phone, then, with all my strength, I threw it against the wall. But this wasn't over. A few days later, when I had started to process everything, I got a message. We need to talk. About Jake. It was Lauren. My stomach twisted. I agreed to meet her. When she walked into the cafe, I expected to see an enemy. But she looked just as lost and broken as I felt. You're Ellie? Yeah. She exhaled deeply and sat across from me. I didn't know about you, she said softly. He told me you were just his roommate. I let out a bitter laugh. Did he tell you he loved you? He did, she whispered. We sat in silence. I broke up with him as soon as I found out, she said. But there's something else you need to know. I leaned in. He wasn't just seeing us. My hands began to shake. What? There are at least 2 other girls. I felt my breath hitch. How do you know? I found them through social media, she explained. They also thought they were the only ones. I was speechless. This wasn't just cheating. This was a game to him. He wasn't just betraying me with her. He was playing this game with multiple women. Lauren looked at me. What are you going to do? I took a deep breath. What about you? She thought for a moment. I think he deserves a taste of his own medicine. I met her gaze and, for the first time that evening, smiled. I have an idea. And that's how our revenge began. The perfect revenge. I had never been the vengeful type. I always believed that karma would take care of people like Jake. But after everything, after the lies, the betrayal, and the realization that I wasn't even the only one, I couldn't just walk away. Neither could Lauren. That night, we sat in the cafe for hours, going through every detail of our relationships with Jake, piecing together his web of deception. It was both painful and infuriating. And then, we made a plan. Jake had played us, used us, and thrown us aside when it suited him. Now, it was our turn to turn the tables. Step 1, gather the others. Lauren had already tracked down 2 other girls, Melissa and Ava. We decided to reach out to them separately, sending messages that started the same way Lauren had messaged me. We need to talk. About Jake. Melissa responded first. Wait. Who are you? How do you know Jake? I took a deep breath and typed. I'm his girlfriend. Or at least, I thought I was. I think you should meet us. Ava took a little longer to reply. When she finally did, her message sent a chill through me. Jake told me he wanted to marry me. Lauren and I stared at each other in shock. Marry her? This was bigger than we thought. Step 2, the setup. A few days later, the 4 of us met up at Lauren's apartment. Melissa was tall, blonde, and sharp-tongued, rolling her eyes the moment she walked in. So, let me get this straight. We've all been dating the same piece of trash. Looks like it, I muttered. Ava was quieter, with soft brown curls and big, sad eyes. She was still processing it all. He told me I was the only one, she whispered. He talked about our future. Kids. A house. Lauren clenched her jaw. He told me the same thing. We sat in silence for a moment, each of us absorbing the truth. Then, Melissa smirked. So, how are we ruining his life? Lauren and I exchanged glances. Then, I pulled out my phone and opened Jake's messages. We're going to set him up. Step 3, the trap. Jake had no idea that we knew about each other. We decided to use that to our advantage. Each of us sent him a message, acting normal, flirty, affectionate, like nothing had changed. We wanted him to believe we were still under his spell. And then, one by one, we each made the same request. I miss you. Can we meet up? Just the 2 of us? He, of course, agreed to all of us. The idiot didn't even try to space out the meetings. He set up dates with each of us for the same night, at the same restaurant. Perfect. Step 4, the showdown. The night of the trap, we arrived separately, each taking our places at different tables in the restaurant. Melissa was first. She sat at the bar, waiting. Ava took a table near the entrance, pretending to scroll through her phone. Lauren and I sat at the back, hidden, watching it all unfold. Then, right on time, Jake walked in. He looked casual, confident, completely unaware that his entire world was about to crash down around him. He spotted Melissa first and grinned, walking up to her like he always did, like he owned the world. Hey, babe. Hi, she said sweetly. Then, before he could sit, Ava stood up. Jake? He turned, looking confused. Ava? What are you doing here? And then Lauren and I stepped out of the shadows. His face drained of color. What is this? Melissa leaned back against the bar, crossing her arms. Oh, this? This is what happens when you screw over 4 women at the same time. Ava pulled out her phone and started playing one of his voice messages, one where he promised her forever. But I want you to know something, you never really knew me. None of you did. I could have been something great. I could have given you everything. But you chose to tear me down. I hope you live with that. I hope it haunts you. I hope you regret it. At the bottom of the email, there was an attachment. Lauren clicked it hesitantly. A video file opened. The footage was dark and shaky. At first, I couldn't tell what I was looking at. Then my blood turned to ice. Jake. Standing in front of a mirror. Holding a gun. What the hell, I whispered. In the video, Jake was talking. His voice was eerily calm. They think they won. They think they ruined me. But I still have control. I always have control. The video cut off. I exhaled shakily, my hands cold. He's spiraling. Lauren nodded, swallowing hard. I don't think this is just a threat, Ellie. I clenched my jaw. We need to go to the police. Step 8, fighting back. Going to the cops wasn't easy. We had screenshots, messages, the video, plenty of evidence that Jake was unstable. But legally? He hadn't done anything that could get him arrested. Not yet. The police took a report, advised us to file restraining orders, and told us to stay vigilant. Great. Super helpful. But I wasn't about to sit around and wait for Jake to make his next move. So we did something he never saw coming. Step 9, exposing the truth. Jake had always been obsessed with control. Controlling his image. His reputation. The way people saw him. So we took that away from him. Lauren uploaded the video. Not just to a private chat. Not just to TikTok. She posted it everywhere. Reddit. Instagram. Facebook. Even local news groups. This is the man who lied to us, cheated on us, manipulated us, and now he wants to play the victim. This is who he really is. We named him. We made sure everyone knew. And it worked. Within hours, people were sharing the post. Commenting. Calling him out. By the next day, Jake had deleted all his social media. By the end of the week, he was gone. No more messages. No more threats. No more sightings. Vanished. Step 10, moving on. It took time to breathe again. To feel normal. I won't lie, there were nights I still checked over my shoulder, wondering if Jake would show up. But he never did. Eventually, I found out he had left the state. Packed up and disappeared. He lost his job. His friends. His reputation. And us? We stayed close. Lauren, Ava, Melissa, and I had started out as strangers. Now, we were something else. Survivors. Jake had spent years lying to us. Using us. Breaking us. But in the end, we were the ones who broke him. Months passed. Seasons changed. Life moved on. At first, I kept expecting him to resurface. Jake had always been the kind of guy who needed control, who needed to win. But after the public humiliation, after the video, after losing everything, he simply disappeared. It was almost disappointing. I wanted to see him suffer. To hear him beg. To watch him realize that, for once, he wasn't the one in charge. But sometimes, the worst thing you can do to a man like Jake? Erase him. And that's exactly what we did. Lauren and I got coffee every week. Ava started dating someone new, someone kind, someone who didn't make her second-guess everything. Melissa moved away for work, but we all stayed in touch, bonded by the strangest, most twisted kind of sisterhood. We survived him. But then, one night, months after everything, I got a message. From an unknown number. Meet me at the pier. One last time. I knew it was him. I should have ignored it. Should have deleted it, moved on, pretended he didn't exist. But a part of me needed closure. So, against all logic, I went. The last meeting. The pier was deserted. The waves crashed against the wooden planks, the salty wind whipping through my hair. I stood there, hands shoved in my jacket pockets, waiting. Then, from the shadows, he stepped out. Jake. He looked different. Thinner. Tired. Less like the cocky, smooth-talking guy I had once loved, and more like a man who had lost everything. For the first time ever, he looked small. He stopped a few feet away from me, shoving his hands into his pockets like he was the one feeling nervous. You actually came, he said. I folded my arms. What do you want, Jake? He let out a dry laugh, shaking his head. I don't know. A conversation? Some kind of closure? I raised an eyebrow. You don't get closure. Not after what you did. I know, he admitted. But I had to try. For a moment, we just stood there, the sound of the ocean filling the silence. Then he sighed. You ruined my life, you know. I let out a sharp laugh. No, Jake. You ruined your life. We just made sure people knew the truth. He looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something that almost resembled regret. Did you ever love me? I asked suddenly. He hesitated. That second of silence told me everything. I nodded, exhaling. That's what I thought. Jake shifted his weight, staring at the water. I loved the idea of you, he admitted. I loved all of you, in different ways. But I guess I loved myself more. I didn't feel anger anymore. No rage, no heartbreak, no sadness. Just emptiness. Goodbye, Jake. I turned to walk away. Ellie. I paused but didn't turn around. His voice was quieter now. Do you ever think about what could have been? I smiled to myself. No. And with that, I walked away, leaving him behind in the dark. Maybe he wanted an apology. Maybe he wanted forgiveness. But all I had to give him was silence. And sometimes, that's the best revenge of all.